Hello and welcome to episode 247 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is October 7th, 2024. And today I'm wearing again something rather old and something very new. But I'll start with the shawl. It's a triangular shawl that I knit in June of 2015. And if I put the dates correctly on Ravelry, I started and finished the shawl within this month, 9 years ago. And it's a simple triangular shawl in granny square pattern or granny stitch or whatever you will call those 3 double crochet clusters. And the funny thing about this was it's the first time I did a granny triangle instead of a granny square, and I used 3 different Opal sock yarn colorways. So if you want to see the different colorways, you can check my Ravelry page. I have a photograph or several photographs of the 3 different colorways next to each other, and I crocheted them, crocheting one row with one color, then the next with the next color, and then with the third color, and then I went back to color 1. And because I was crocheting to and fro, so color 1, color 2, color 3, when I ended here with color 3, color 1 was waiting, so I could do color 1 and then color 2 was waiting on that side. And this way you can use 3 colors and change color every row. In the beginning, it was just an experiment. I wasn't quite sure whether those 3 colorways would look good together. But because I started with so few stitches, it was sort of my gauge swatch or color swatch to just try those 3 different balls of yarn. And especially in the beginning, the colors were so similar, it looked as if I was using one ball of yarn. And then the further I went, the more colors came into the shawl, the happier I was, because I really liked the way the colors play together. And in a way, it looks as if this was one big colorful ball of yarn that I used. And I crocheted most of the 3 balls, and then with the last row that I did on the outside of the shawl, when this colorway was almost gone, I used the next colorway to do 1 row of double crochets on this long edge just to get a nice finish. And then the third color was the only one that I had a little bigger leftover bit. But I think there's a picture of the leftovers of the 3 balls of yarn on my Ravelry page as well. So I'm really happy with that. Some of you will notice that it's quite similar to one of my works in progress, but I'll talk more about that when I get to that. Yeah, so that's the shawl I'm wearing today. And of course, the cardigan I'm wearing is the cotton cardigan that I've been knitting the last couple of weeks or maybe months. And it was a finished project last week, and I am now wearing it. And the way I'm wearing it today with a long sleeve shirt underneath, I think it's perfectly okay. It's not what I really meant to do with this cardigan. It's supposed to be a summer cardigan, and for me to just wear a light top or maybe a summer dress underneath. But it also works this way, and I thought with the red shirt underneath, the lace pattern shows really nicely. If I wore something black underneath, then it would be less visible. The pattern would probably be more or less invisible, but I think like this it looks quite nice. It's still a fairly short cardigan, but it's longer than my white version. So my waist is about here, so I'm really happy. For a summer cardigan, I think it's a perfect length if I wear a skirt or a dress underneath. But even with the shirt showing underneath, I think it's absolutely okay. And I'm really, really happy that it's done. I'm not so happy that summer's gone now, but I am confident there will be another summer, and then I'll be able to wear that in warm weather. Yeah, and so I think everything that needs to be said about this cardigan, I probably said last week, in last week's episode. So it's a pure cotton, it's the Catania by Schachenmeier. The pattern is by Lana Grossa. It's linked on the Ravelry page. And I think that's it. Yeah, then On to finished objects. I have one finished object today, but 2 new cast-ons, I know. But as I said last week, there's 2 mystery knit-alongs that started last week, so I just had to start the project. But my finished object is my Lanatus pullover, and I just realized I wanted to just quickly show the book again. That's the book that the pattern came from for the pullover. It's by Susan Crawford. The German title is Shetland Maschen. I think it's something like Shetland knitting in English, I'm not too sure. But the pullover that I knit, it's the Lanatus pattern, and there are 2 different versions in the book. So one version, you just put the color work in the yoke, and the other version, you have an all-over color work in the whole pullover. But she chose to do it as a short sleeve version, but I wanted, as I'm using wool, I think it's too warm to be knitting a short sleeve pullover, sorry about that. So I decided to do it long sleeves, and this is what my pullover looks like. So, and the other change, of course, is that I didn't just use 2 colors, but I had a solid color, main color, and then my contrast color was a Hundertwasser colorway by Opal. So 1 ball of yarn with lots and lots of colors in it. And I only used 1 of those 100-gram balls. So I only used 89 grams of yarn. Of the colorful yarn, I used less than 200 grams of the main color. I forgot to check how much I had left over. But I'm so happy. I'm really happy. The ribbing is at the bottom. It's a bit longer than the one at the neck, but it is shorter than the one on the sleeves. So I think I have 3 different numbers, but that's okay. It was just what I felt to be right. Yeah, it's not been washed yet, so it's still a little uneven, the way the stitches look, and the hem still sort of likes to fold up and things like that. I am pretty sure that all these things will get better once I have washed it. I'll quickly show you the inside, just in case you're curious. You can see all my floats are fairly loose, so I tend to leave very loose floats, which means my knitting becomes more loose than it usually is, which is why I go down a needle size for knitting color work. So that was the front of the pullover. This is the back, where there was the beginning and end of row. So this is where I wove in some of the ends, so that looks a little less neat, but that's the way it is. Yeah, anything else? I think that's about it. So I'm looking forward to washing it this week, and then next week I am going to wear this pullover. And as it's getting colder, the weather will be, yeah, this pullover will be better suited to the weather than the cardigan I'm wearing today. Yeah, so on to works in progress. I have again several projects that I did not touch last week, so I didn't bring them. And 2 of those were the surprise Sockalong Color Opportunity socks by Stephen West. I have not started the second sock. I really have to get going on that. I did not continue knitting on the bellflower sock. So the only sock that I worked on last week was the sneaker sock for my nephew, where I'm knitting the tiger colorway from Opal's Rainforest series, and I'm knitting these tiny neon color pops at the beginning of the sock, round the heel, and then it will come again round the before I start the toe. And I've just added rows to the sock, so not too many more rows, and then I can do the last neon pop, and then I can knit the toe. And when I finish these socks, I will go straight into his girlfriend's socks. I chose a different colorway from the Rainforest series, and she'll get a different neon color pop. And the 2 pairs are one project. So instead of doing a new project for the other pair of socks, I decided to have those 2 pairs as one project. So once these socks are done, I'll have a finished object, but not a finished project. But anyway, so sock knitting is the plan for this week. I want to knit on all the socks and maybe even start a new one. We'll see about that. Then on to other projects out of sock yarn. the smaller projects, I continue knitting on the hat, the fisherman's hat. Just a few rounds here and there. I think last week I was pretty sure that I was into the second color repeat, and yeah, that is true. I think last week I was still knitting these beige rounds, and they have now turned into the light gray ones, and then it should probably turn into the blue soon, and then from the blue it'll go into the gray, and then the next. Yeah, nothing much. 2-color brioche, really happy with the way it looks. My sister is looking forward to her hat, but it will still take some time, I'm pretty sure. Brioche is never a quick thing. Then, also for my sister, I continued knitting on the mittens that I'm knitting for her out of this Einband by Lopi. This is a really scratchy yarn to knit with, which is in a way very good for color work because the floats never go anywhere and the stitches never go anywhere if you lose one, which is quite good because I'm using a really tiny needle and I'm really in, yeah, I do sometimes lose stitches. Yeah, and I've added quite a bit of knitting to the glove. Last week I just started with the color work, I think. So I started the thumb increases. These are the thumb increases. And I added more stitches to the first cat. So this is her one leg, and this is going to be her head. So I've even done, what is it? I think this is the nose, and I've almost finished the first eye, and I've started the second eye. Still can't really see very clearly. I hope it'll be clearer next week. And this is the beginning of the second cat. So again, I start with one of her legs, and then there'll be the other cat growing there. The contrast between those two colors is, well, if you look at the balls of yarn, there's quite a big contrast. But the gray is not always the same kind of gray, and the blue is not always the same kind of blue. So sometimes when there's a bit of a darker blue and a bit of a lighter patch in the gray, it's really difficult to see. But I know that my sister loves weak contrasts, so she loves colors to sort of blur into each other, and I hope she'll be happy with these mittens. Then I continue knitting on the Viva Vittoria square. That's the square that I'm knitting for this happening in Kassel next year, where they will have lots of squares sewn together to blankets, and they want to create attention to the problem of violence against women. And everybody who wants to participate can knit or crochet squares that have 50 centimeters edge, so 50 centimeters wide and 50 centimeters high. I started with this strip, and I promise it was 50 centimeters when I cast off, but somehow it seems to shrink. So now I have to pull it a bit to get my 50 centimeters. But because this is garter stitch, it's very flexible. And I think I will wash and block it before I send it off, so to make sure it's really 50 centimeters. When I finished that, I turned it round and I picked up stitches from the long side. So now I am knitting a 50 centimeter wide piece, and I am going towards getting 50 centimeters this way. And yeah, I finished my first ball of yarn. So I had a 150 gram ball of 8-ply sock yarn by Opal, and I still like the way the stripes look completely different with this number of stitches than with that number of stitches. So that's very interesting. And as I had said, I was pretty sure it wouldn't be enough to complete the whole square. And I ran out of yarn here. So I only added like 1.5 rows to make sure that I had the new ball attached, and I was at the end of the row. And instead of starting a new 150 gram ball when I only had to knit like 7 to 8 centimeters, I looked through my leftover 8-ply yarns and I came across this one. And this is a really old colorway, Opal 8-ply sock yarn. And I once did a pullover out of this. And I know that I wore that pullover several times on the podcast, but I've now given it away because I had it for a really long time. And back then I didn't get to choose which color to use and what shape to knit because I was knitting for the shop. We had to knit the window shop display pieces the way they were shown in the magazine. So I was told to use this color and I quite liked it at the time, but now that I've worn it so often and I have I knit pullovers all the time, so I had a lot more pullovers that I preferred to this one, so I decided to give this away. And that means I don't need the leftover yarn anymore. I don't have to hold on to it in case I need to mend something. So, and I thought the colors look quite nicely with this color, so I am going to finish the square, hopefully going to finish the square with this yarn. If it's not enough, I'll add in something else. But so far, I'm hoping that that will be enough, and it will just have a different color pattern at the end of the square, at this end of the square. Yeah, and then we come to, no, not the new project yet, the baby surprise jacket that I had as a new project last week. I'm using this parrot colorway, and I just added a few rows of knitting onto the baby surprise jacket. The funny thing about the baby surprise jacket by Elizabeth Zimmerman is that you only have to knit one piece, you only have to sew 2 small seams, and you have a baby jacket, but while you are knitting it, it looks nothing like a baby jacket, which is really funny. And I really enjoy watching the colors while I'm knitting this to see which color comes where. And it seems like every part so far of the cardigan looks different. And I am decreasing stitches at the moment to create those 2 corners. So I think there won't be any repetition in the colorway as long as the number of stitches is going to change. And once I finish with the decreases, I'll start doing increases. And you always change something with this cardigan. So I usually like to use a yarn that is a little more stripy so that you can tell the way the pieces were knit. But even though these aren't really proper stripes most of the time, I think it should look funny once the cardigan is done. And I think it still shows the direction of knitting quite nicely. We'll see when I've knit it more, and we'll see for sure when the cardigan is done. But that's going to be a baby surprise jacket. And now we come to the first new cast on. And as I already told you last week, I am going to participate in 2 mystery knit-alongs that are running this month. And the first one that I'm going to show you, and that's the first one that I started, is the Halloween Cowl by Telly Bean Knits. The pattern is called Witch's Brew, and it's sort of similar to the one that she did last year. So she designed another mystery Halloween cowl last year that I knit, and I really enjoyed it. And the way she does it is that from October 1st to October 13th, we get a piece of the pattern every day. And then from October 14th to October 30th, you have time to finish it. And then October 31st, you can wear it for Halloween. And I forgot to bring the yarn that I picked up, but I have already used all the colors, so I'll just show you the colors in the cowl. If you are knitting the cowl and you have not looked at all the clues yet, I'm going to show it starting now. So this was the first clue, and these are the first 2 colors. It's a really dark blue that's hand dyed. The white is just simple opal sock yarn. Then the neon yellow is also opal sock yarn. And there's a stitch pattern here. And then I went back to the white, but there came some purple. And these are supposed to be some crawly little animals crawling around. And then the next color, the orange, is a hand-dyed yarn that a friend of mine dyed while she was still practicing to dye. So the color did not come out the way she intended, but I said she could give it to me and I would use it for something. And now for this Halloween cowl, I think a bright orange is always a good idea. But the fact that there's some light pink in there really makes it very interesting and very Halloween-y, I think. And then we went back to color 2. So this dark blue is the same dark blue as down here. And we have this really funny stitch pattern with these big holes that are supposed to be eyes looking at you. And then all these pieces were knit to and fro. And then after this pattern, we started knitting in the round. So now this is starting to look, until then it looked like a triangular shawl, but now it starts looking like a cowl. And then the next pattern that we knit was this one. And I was pretty sure there'd be some of these in the pattern because it's called Witch's Brew. And then the next pattern that we got yesterday is only half a motif. And today we are going to finish it, but I'll show you the half. I'm not telling you what I think this is going to be. If I'm right, I'll tell you next week. That's what I thought. But if I was wrong, then I'll tell you what I thought it was going to be. And then we'll see what it actually is. So the red color is a glittery yarn. It's a hand-dyed yarn, also by Wolldackel, like the dark one. And it's the same dark color as well. So these are both colors by Wolldackel. And as I said, half a motif. So the shape of the cowl was not a surprise, not a mystery. This is Stephanie Lotvin's favorite cowl shape, I think. So we keep doing the increases, so you get this point down here, but then in the back, it's now close to be knit in the round. I'm hopefully not losing stitches. So this is the bit that's going to be in the back. This is a very Halloween-y stitch marker I'm using. Yeah, so I'm not showing anything anymore. This is the first mystery knit along that I started doing on October 1st. And so far I've managed to knit every clue as it came out. I'm really happy about that. We'll see if I managed going forward. Yeah, but you'll see you next week. And the next new project will come in a moment. These are all the small sock yarn projects that I'm knitting at the moment. Now I'll come to the garments, and one of the garments is a finished object. One I haven't touched, that's the Mamaki dress, but I continued knitting on the Vinahop pullover by Nicolor. And I'd stopped knitting on the front and back because I'd finished the ball of yarn I was knitting on, and I put the stitches for one sleeve on the needle already, but then the week before last, I didn't get to start knitting on the sleeve, but that's what I did last week. So I picked up the stitches, and the first 10 rows I just knit, and then I did the same knit purl pattern that I did on the front and back. Here I haven't quite finished it yet because I ran out of yarn, but now I started a new ball of yarn, and I finished that pattern bit, and I'm already into the next stockinette band, and I am also doing decreases at the same time to get a nice tapered sleeve, I think is the word. Yeah, and I started the first sleeve. Really happy about that. Hopefully I can spend a bit more time on the pullover soon because I'm really looking forward to finishing it now, even though there's still lots to do. I'm not saying it's going to get finished soon, but I just want to keep going. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's all the pullovers. Then on to shawls. I again did not touch the Abloom shawl. I also did not knit on the skirt, just to have mentioned that. But I knit a little bit on the Goff's Place Mystery shawl. This huge big shawl. I'm not going to show everything again. I did that last week, I think. But I'll show you what I knit. And I stopped at that point because it means right now I only have one ball of yarn hanging off of it. And that means I finished this segment that I knit with the pink and the purple. So one segment done and one complete segment to go. So now I have to repeat this segment with the pink and the dark blue. And once I finish that, I will cast off with an I-cord, And then I'll have to add some more I-cords to some edges, like this edge. I think this will look a lot better with an I-cord. I'm not so sure it's really important on this edge. That already looks dark blue and quite nice. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I'll do. But I'm happy I finished that segment, and I'm looking forward to knitting the last segment of the last clue. And then there'll only be the finishing touches. I really want to finish this and start wearing it. But the next new project is another shawl, and that's the Mystery Shawl by Stephen West. So Stephen West has been designing mystery shawls, I think, for 15 years now. Not quite sure. I think this is the 15th time he's been doing that. And for me, it's the third time taking part. So the first time I did a mystery shawl by Stephen West was because of the yarn. Woldackel was creating yarn sets, color sets that year. And my sister and I bought one of those sets each and knit the shawl. And then last year, a friend of mine wanted to knit the shawl, so I said I'll knit it along with her. And I used different grey coloured yarn by Hansa Farm plus black. So it's just a grey-black shawl, which I really like. It's perfect for wearing with black or any colour, really. So I'm really happy with that. But because I used so many grey colours last year, I thought this year I want to do something colourful. And also I wanted to, if possible, use some yarn that I had in my stash and not always go for the new yarn. It's very tempting when you have a yarn shop and you get all those new colours all the time. It's so easy to go for, oh, this is such a new colour and such a nice colour. But I went into my drawer with the with my stash of Opal Abu Yan. This is the subscription yarn, where you get a parcel 4 times a year with 6 one-off colorways that sometimes get repeaters and sometimes they don't. And this was one of the colorways that actually got repeated in the series, I think it was Herbstmelodie? No, it was Memories. It was the Memories series. And but I already sold all the ones from that series, but I still had this plus one more. So I must have swapped it with somebody who gave me their Abu ball of yarn. I probably gave them a color that I didn't like. I don't remember, but I had 2 of this color, and that was actually the only color Abu Yan I had 2 of. So I said, okay, this is going to be one of my colors for the Stephen West shawl. You need 2 colors. You need 200 grams of each color. And at first I was thinking of picking a solid color yarn to go with this. Could have been a dark blue, it could have been an orange or purple, something that's in here. I could have used black to have this really shining against the black. But then I thought, you know what? I want something really, really, really colorful. And I picked out several Hundertwasser colorways by Opal. And then I finally decided on this one. So I know it's really crazy to use 2 colorful yarns to knit with each other. Everybody told me I was crazy, but sometimes I like being crazy. So I decided this is going to be my color choice for the Stephen West knit along this year. It's called Go Dynamo. And then the first pattern, the first clue dropped on Thursday last week. And I really enjoy this one so far. I don't know what's going to come, but I really enjoy clue 1. And for clue 1, this is what you start. Oh, I should have warned you. I'm showing it now. Yeah, I'm showing it now. I'll be showing things for several minutes now, probably. So this is what you start knitting. The reverse stockinette bits are my main color, which is this one. And the stockinette stitches are the contrast color, which is this one. But because my colors are always changing color, it's really fun, but I really enjoyed it. So this was actually the 3rd piece that I knit, because this is the first bit of pattern that you get, and then Stephen says to knit this 3 times. And as I said, this is the 3rd one. The first one that I knit was actually this one. So it's the same shape, but the colors come out differently because of my yarn choice. And this was the 2nd piece that I knit. So they all look they all have the same shape. And if you use solid colors, they all look the same. If you use one solid color and one variegated yarn, they may look a bit different. But for me, they look very different. But I love it. I really enjoy the differences, and it still belongs together. You can still tell it's the same. It's knit from the same yarn, but my contrast color really changes a whole lot. But even my main color, it's different shades of turquoise, and then you always have those short stripes of yellow, orange, and purple in there. So it's really funny. And then with this piece, my main color started with this little bit of orange in there, and then the contrast color also. No, it wasn't orange, but it looks like it was contrast color, but this is actually main color. So it's really funny. So that's what you start with. You do those 3 pieces. Then you take your first piece that you knit and you add this. Now this is all in garter stitch, and you change between 4 rows of main color and 4 rows of contrast color. And while you knit that, you attach it to your first half circle. I think it's so much fun. Because this is stockinette and reverse stockinette, and it has this like 3-dimensional aspect to it, but this is all garter stitch, so this is really flat. And I love the difference between those two. I love the way this looks. And now basically you should have clear stripes of main color and contrast color, but because my main color also has yellow and the contrast color has yellow, with my stripes they look like all over the place in a way, but I love it. I'm really happy with this. And once you finish that, you still have your first half circle. Then you take your second half circle and then you knit something in between the 2 pieces. And so this piece is sort of going to look like this piece. But as you can see, the colors are very different. I love it. And then once I finish this piece, I'll take the third one, repeat this bit, and then at this end, I'll repeat this bit. And then I have a long strip of something with loads and loads of stitches that are on hold, like these stitches, and then these when they're done. And then you go and knit with all the stitches. You knit several rows of contrast color, and then you add the main color, but then you do these dip stitches. You do something to make it even more fun and interesting. And with the last bit, you again change between stockinette and, I don't think it's reverse stockinette. I think with the last part, it's stockinette and garter stitch, but I'm not too sure because I haven't done it yet. A lot happening. I'm not showing anything anymore, by the way. There's a lot happening. There's a lot going on with this shawl. But so far, I really love it. I'm really happy with my yarn choice, with my color choice, even though everybody told me I was crazy. Depending on how the shawl continues, I may add a solid color at some point if I think it doesn't make sense otherwise. But if it keeps being striped, I will stick with the 2 colors. I'm really happy striping those 2 very colorful yarns. Yeah, so that was the second new cast on, and that brings me to the last project, which is our Crochet Along, where we crochet spiral granny squares or spiral granny hexagons or spiral granny, whatever you want to spiral. And this is what I have so far. So this started off as a project for leftover yarn. So I was using different colorways in the beginning, but I really like the way things are working out. And then I ran out of leftover yarns with these colors, so I picked this Hundertwasser yarn, which is very colorful, and for the last couple of rounds I've only been using this ball, but it sort of still looks like I was using leftover yarns. And yes, this is the project that's very similar to the shawl that I'm wearing, especially as I want to use this as a triangular shawl once it's done. So it's the exact same pattern, And the colors are different. There are more colors in this than in this. These are only 3 different colorful colorways by Opal. Here I used several different balls of yarn. So they are not the same, but they are sort of similar, especially if I wear this as a triangular shawl. But I might also use this or wear this like a stole, or like just use it as a blanket. I may give this away in the end, or I may give this away. I probably won't keep both because they're too similar for that. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do, but yeah, it just proves that I like these colorful things. I like the granny pattern, and I like warm things. Yeah, so that was everything I knit and crochet last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!